Hello, welcome back to MANCINIMA. I hope you're all doing very well. I hope you've all had a lovely weekend and I hope you've been to the cinema. If you have, you might have seen some of the films that we're going to talk about today. Two films for you this week. First of all being The Knock at the Cabin and the second movie being Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which we'll get to in a moment. But, as usual, before we get into all that, if I can just ask you if you could like this video for me, give the video the thumbs up. Really does help the channel out, really spreads the word. The more likes this channel gets, then the more it opens up to YouTube and other people will get to learn about us and I can be encouraged to do more of these videos. If you could subscribe to the channel for me as well, that would be absolutely fantastic. Again, it all helps. It helps spread the word, helps boost the channel up a little bit, and it helps me, like I say, want to do more of these videos. And the last thing I'll ask of you is if you can hit the notification bell, then you'll know when I've done another video. It'll pop up on your feed and say, hey, the old Mancini's done another review video for you. Right, so let's get into it. What have we got for you first? We've got Knock at the Cabin. So, Knock at the Cabin then. This is M. Night Shyamalan's latest movie, and it starts off with a family who are vacationing a remote cabin in the woods. Now, we're introduced to a little girl, Wen, played by Kristen Coy. I hope I've pronounced her surname correctly. And she's out in the middle of this field, and you see her playing, and she's collecting grasshoppers and putting them in a glass jar and studying them, and she's giving them all names, and she says, oh, this one's a mean one, this one's a happy grasshopper, and it's almost like she's studying their characteristics. While she's playing sweetly within this little woodland, a figure approaches out of the woods, if you like, out of the trees, and he approaches, comes towards her. He's a big fellow, he's wearing a white shirt, he's got his glasses on, muscled, tattoos all up his arms. He looks a little bit threatening, but he's really gentle. Now, this is Leonard, and he introduces himself to the little girl, and he's played by Dave Bautista in a very unusual role. He gets to talk to the little girl, he sits down with her, he says, don't be scared, and she says, well, I don't talk to strangers. And he says, let me introduce myself, let me get to know you, we won't be strangers anymore, we'll be friends. So she's reluctantly kind of listens to him, and he helps her collect a grasshopper to put into the tank, into the glass jar, if you like, that she's collecting them in. And they form some kind of a friendship. And she's chatting quite sweetly with him, and he asks her why she's out there and who she's out there with. And she explains she's there with her two dads. And before you know it, while he's talking to her, she sees three other people approaching out of the woods. There's two women and a guy called Redmond, and he's played by a virtually unrecognisable Rupert Grint. Remember Rupert Grint from Harry Potter? I can't remember what the character's name was, but I think it was Ron. He was playing Ron in Harry Potter. So of course they all start approaching together, and the little girl's beginning to wonder what's going on, and she gets spooked, and she goes running back to the cabin, and she goes to see her two dads who are out there lounging on the porch, whatever you call it. And she says to them, let's get inside, we've got to get inside and lock the door straight away. So of course that spooks them. And Leonard and his group, if you like, they come up to the house or up to the cabin, and they start speaking to the dads through the wall. They say, can we come in, we've got something to say to you, we need to discuss something with you. And the dads are very wary. They say, well, no, we don't know who you are, and please go away. And they say, well, if you don't let us in, we're going to have to break our way in. And the fathers look out of the window, and they see they've got these big weapons, big axes and other things on pikes and things like that. And they do proceed to break their way into the cabin, and they take Wen and her two fathers hostage, and they sit them down, and they're all very calm. They line up in a row of four, whereas the two fathers are tied to a seat. I mean, I don't think Wen's tied up, but the two fathers are certainly tied to seats there. And Leonard gently explains that they unfortunately have had visions, horrible visions of the world ending, and the only way that they can prevent the world from ending, prevent the apocalypse from coming, is by one of the three that are there. So Wen or one of her two fathers has to sacrifice themselves, and if they sacrifice themselves, all of this will stop. And of course the two fathers are saying, well, you're being ridiculous, this isn't, bull, why are you doing this? You're obviously out of your heads, and you're obviously part of some religious cult, and you've gone a bit crazy, and you've come here and you've intimidated our family, and you've tied us up to these chairs. So as if to prove his point, one of them turns the television on, and you can see it like a natural disaster occurring. I can't remember what the first one is, but I think it's like a tsunami or something like that. So they were saying, well, that might just be happening anyway. It doesn't prove that the apocalypse is coming. I won't go into any more detail from there on out, because to do so would be to spoil the plot. But let's just say that it's a very difficult situation that the fathers are in. Do they believe these guys, and should they make the ultimate sacrifice, and what is going to happen next? So Knock at the Cabin is M. Night Shyamalan's latest movie. It's based on a book called The Cabin at the End of the World, which is written by Paul Tremblay. I haven't read the book, so I don't know whether the movie is like the book or whether one is better than the other. If maybe one of my viewers has read the book and has seen the movie and can compare, could you please come and let me know down in the comments? Just let me know whether one is better than the other. Maybe I'll go check the book out down the line. So yeah, it's M. Night Shyamalan's latest movie. Of course, he's had all the big hitters like The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, but then he's also had a few that didn't really hit the mark so well, like The Village and The Happening. And for me, Old. I didn't really enjoy Old. I thought Old started out okay and it just kind of petered off with a bit of a so what ending. Knock at the Cabin is beautifully shot, some amazing cinematography in there. The locations look incredible. And obviously there's some lovely close-ups as well. It sounds strange, lovely close-ups of grasshoppers in certain scenes as well, which I enjoyed. And incredible performances by Dave Bautista, playing a much more restrained character than we've ever seen him play on the screen before. Dave Bautista, for me, you've seen him in Guardians of the Galaxy, you see him in other tough guy roles where he's obviously in this kind of big brute of a character. He's much more refined in this, he's much more calm and gentle, and you feel that he really does struggle with what he has to put to this family. He doesn't want to be telling them that this is what they've got to do. He doesn't want them to do this. This is something that he's seen in a vision that he has to put upon them. If they don't, it'll be the end of the world. So it's like a really tough choice. All he is the messenger, along with the other three strangers. Rupert Grint, again, he was Ron in Harry Potter. And this is so far removed from Ron. I mean, in that he was kind of a sweet, goofy character. In this, he's a very nervous, very troubled, and sometimes kind of violent and edgy character. And not only do you not recognise him facially, but you don't recognise him through his actions as well. So again, Rupert Grint, fantastic performance, as is the two dads, and of course Kristen Coy playing the little girl Wen. She's incredible to watch. The film basically lights up whenever she's on the screen, so it's worth going to see these performances. Is it worth seeing the film as a whole, as an enjoyable whole movie to enjoy? Yeah, I mean the movie flags a little bit for me. I thought it was enjoyable, it kept my interest. However, there were moments where I commit the sin of kind of looking at the time and seeing how much longer has this got to go. I just felt it could have been a little bit more compact, it could have been more suspenseful, had me on the edge of my seat a little bit stronger, because as it was, I was kind of sitting there watching the movie and it was unfolding before me. It was interesting, yes, but it didn't have me gripping the edge of my seat wondering what the hell was going to happen next, which I kind of wanted it to. It's not a kind of a stunner in the same way that The Sixth Sense was, something that will have you coming out of the cinema talking about it for weeks afterwards, which is what I want from M. Night Shyamalan. That first movie, that Sixth Sense, it had me coming out of the cinema thinking, oh my god, what have I just watched, and why didn't I see this, and why didn't I see that? And he tricked me so well with that first movie that, you know, obviously we were prepared for some of his twists and turns down the line. But you don't get a twist with this movie. It's based on the book, like I said. I don't know whether it has to follow the tracks of that book and how tightly it sticks to that. There's no twist. It ends, and when you get to the end you think, yeah, it's alright, it was okay. Would I recommend you go and see it at the cinema? Yeah, you know, I always recommend you go and see a film at the cinema. It's better than Old if you went to see Old at the cinema, so it's certainly worth going to see this one. I could also easily say you might want to sit this one out, wait for it to turn up on Sky or streaming or Netflix or one of the other channels, and you could quite easily just watch it there as well. That is Knock at the Cabin. Okay, so Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. It arrives 11 years after the previous Puss in Boots movie. Of course, the Puss in Boots movie spun out of the Shrek franchise. In this movie, once again, Puss in Boots is played by Antonio Banderas, and he finds that he's had a kind of a life of hard living, hard adventuring, hard drinking, and he's used up 8 out of his 9 lives. And it's only when he goes to the doctor that he realises this. And the doctor says to him, you know, you've got to slow down a little bit, take things a little bit easier. Otherwise that'll be the end for you. There'll be no more Puss in Boots. This sends him into a bit of a sad spiral, and he goes off and he has to join this cat retirement home where there's all these other cats there and this mad cat lady who looks after them all. However, he hears along the way about a magical wishing star, and the magical wishing star will grant its last wish, which is where the title comes from. So he's joined in this endeavour by Kitty Softpaws, who's played by Salma Hayek, and she helps him get out of the cat retirement home, if you like, to seek out the wishing star, to claim the last wish and claim his lives back. Of course, she's after the last wish for herself, so there's a little bit of competition between the pair. And there's also competition from a Grim Reaper wolf who is hunting Puss down. He wants to try and get him at every turn he can. And there's also competition from some other kind of nursery rhyme characters. You've got Big Jack Horner, who is obviously the little Jack Horner all grown up. He wants the wish for himself. You've also got Goldilocks and the Three Bears. The Goldilocks is played by Florence Pugh, and two of the Three Bears are played by Olivia Colman and Ray Winston. Absolutely fantastic characters. All of them are after the wishing star, all of them for the wish for themselves. But who is going to get it? Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is absolutely a fantastic movie. It's really, really fun. It's got a lot of heart. It's a tale of kind of love and redemption and examining who you used to be and who you're going to be in the future, and about change. But it's not too heavily put over, so it's not going to be too much of a bombardment for children. It's, like I said, there's lots of action, lots of adventure, lots of fun, lots of witticisms. The animation is absolutely fantastic. It's taken a kind of a hint from the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's not the same animation as that, but what it's done is it's changed up from the Shrek franchise, which was all kind of 3D rendered characters, into this kind of painted style. And it works really, really well for this movie. There's a lot of softness to this movie. Antonio Banderas is once again absolutely superb as Puss in Boots, a character that he carried over from the Shrek franchise, of course. You got Olivia Colman is funny as one of the bears. You've got Ray Winston as one of the Three Bears as well. And of course, Florence Pugh as Goldilocks. And of course, Salma Hayek as Kitty Softpaws, which gives an interesting and actually fun dynamic between her and Puss in Boots throughout the movie. Yeah, really did enjoy it. Took you by surprise because it's a sequel, like I said. It arrived 11 years later after the last movie came out, and of course much further on from the Shrek franchise. Really is worth seeing. I would recommend. I don't know why it's open now. That's one thing I will say. It's not a kids' half term, so why is it opened kind of in this random slot around now? I mean, Easter's just a few kind of weeks away, so maybe they could have hung on till Easter, or maybe hung on till half term to open it, so it would maximise the children's viewership, if you like. Or I know that in America it opened around Christmas time, so that's probably the ideal time where they could have gone off school and seen this movie. Strange time to open Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. However, it's a fun film. It's good for adults and for children. My wife and I really enjoyed watching it. We thought it was a lot of fun. Like I say, a lot of heart. Lovely story, tale of redemption, lots of action, lots of amazing animation. So yeah, put Puss in Boots: The Last Wish at the top of your to-see list for this week. And there you have it, that's our 2 reviews for this week. However, what have we got coming up for next week? Well, honestly, not a lot. I don't know that I'm going to be here next week to review a movie, because looking at what's happening, the only movie that's opening at the cinema next week that I'm aware of is Magic Mike, and I haven't seen the other 2 Magic Mike movies. So yeah, I think I'm going to give that one a miss. It doesn't really appeal to me, that one, so I'm sorry for the fans of that franchise. I won't be reviewing that movie. It's not something that I want to go and see. The other movie that opens next week is the 3D re-release of James Cameron's Titanic. Yeah, so Titanic is back at the cinema next week in a 3D format. I think it's its 25th anniversary. That's probably why they're showing it. Or maybe James Cameron hasn't made enough money on Avatar and he just wants to make a bit more, you know, a little bit more money from James. So look out down the line. He'll probably re-release Aliens, re-release True Lies, re-release everything else that he's done, just so he can remain top of the box office. And I think that's the way he's heading. However, like I say, if you've enjoyed this video, please give the video a like, please subscribe to the channel, and please hit the notification bell, and please come down in the comments, let us know what you thought about Knock at the Cabin and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Alright, thank you very much once again for viewing, and I will see you all soon.